this video is very important. Fixed mindset individuals, honestly, like they can have decent lives, but they're missing a lot of the experience of life because you don't want to fall into just a circle of negative identity loops, right? Because that's what happens when you just have this fixed mindset and you're just repeating the same insecurities, the same mistakes, falling into the same traps because you just don't believe that you can change these things. Come over to the growth mindset, come over to the Mongolian mindset, okay? You could
Yes.
start to improve your life. You could start to add tools to your belt. You could start influencing your reality. Like these things are part of the human experience. Okay, where humans like to you know take action on their environment, and the only way you're gonna do that is if you adopt this growth mindset. Okay. All right, so this one's very important. This one is adopting a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. Okay, now someone with a growth mindset, they view intelligence, abilities, and talents as learnable and capable of improvement. What does that mean? It means that your capability is fluid, right? Like it can improve or even depreciate if you don't take care of it. Now, this is very important because the thing is, like fixed mindset people, they end up repeating the same mistakes over and over and over throughout their life. Like these are the people who, let's say, they were self-conscious about their weight in their teen years, and then they're still like 40 years old, 45 years old, 50 years old, still saying the same stuff they were saying when they were 15, 16, 17. Now, I don't want to judge those people for that. It might not be their fault, but if they adopted a more growth mindset, maybe they could deal with those emotions, deal with those insecurities, and let them go, right, and progress through life. Um, so the thing is, like fixed mindset individuals, they treat these traits as inherently stable and unchangeable. So they start to form identities on these things. So that instead of saying like, okay, I'm out of shape right now, they might say, oh, I'm a fat person, right?
I got big bones. Like somebody said, well, I got big bones or some shit.
Yeah,
And
like
it's like,
they'll just treat it as a unchangeable fact about themselves and create an identity around it. And the thing about identity is that once you form an identity, it's almost like your body creates a homeostasis around that identity. So let's say if you believe that you're a fat person and then you lose weight, you will revert back to being a fat person because that in your mind is your identity, right? So it's almost like even if you achieve the thing that you've been wanting to achieve, you feel almost like imposter syndrome and your body tends to want to go back, right? So you don't want to be in a fixed mindset, you want to be in a growth mindset, always improving, always changing things, um, because it's just more positive overall, okay?
even in the studies, people have noticed that, well, it's always been there, that you have to test against a placebo because that in itself is a very powerful thing, right? So they give somebody a placebo, like let's say, for instance, they were testing a drug that they want to see if it actually increased people's strength or whatever, and give somebody placebo and stuff of that nature, and they don't know which one they're taking, and they'll see and they'll measure that, right? And a lot of times, what you do see is that the people who do take the placebo and believe that they are taking something, they do a lot better, right?
Mhm.
And this is kind of like the same thing that the kind of the growth mindset will do for you.
Yeah, so even the people who took essentially a sugar pill because they believed they were taking a drug that was going to help them make better results, they ended up getting better results, which kind of shows that this growth mindset thing is very powerful. It could almost in a way shift reality for you. The other thing is listening to feedback and applying it. Growth mindset individuals, they can accept criticism and they actually listen to it, see if it's constructive, and they apply it to themselves. Fixed mindset individuals, they tend to live in denial. They tend to reject feedback. They see it as criticism. And think about it. Why would that be? It's because they created identities over these things. So you criticizing their actions is not just criticizing their actions, you're criticizing them as people, right? That's the difference between
Yeah.
growth and fixed.
You listen to the feedback, like it's very important. especially when you're trying to separate yourself to the next level a lot of times, right? If you watch the best of the best, they're always reviewing film, right? No matter what it is, like Kobe is like, oh, watching film. Like, okay, what did I do wrong? Because you have to look at what you do wrong. Like, let's say, for instance, you play chess. I fucking hate having to review games, right? But the simple fact is that once I review those games that I lost, I get more out of it than when I review a game that I won. And if you take that, like these little principles we talk about, if you have to apply these to all aspects of your life, right? If you want to do something, okay, how can I review the film on myself on this?
Yeah, in fact, I could give
Okay.
a very specific example. When I was a little bit younger, I was going through a hard time in a moment of my life, and I was kind of acting out in ways that were a little bit self-destructive. And Mercer was kind of taking note of this because we were living together at the time, and he's like, "Christian, I think you going through some shit, bro. I think you might be depressed right now, right now." I being a growth because we're both growth minded individuals. It's like we could be super real with each other and we don't see it as like, okay, I'm criticizing like you as a person. It's like okay, no, let me see if what Mercer's saying is true, right? So you're saying you're looking at it from an objective point of view. Am I really in this state of mind, right? So I took a look at it as like, hey, look, a lot of shit's been going on in my life right now. I'm probably not in the right mindset. I should probably slow the fuck down, right? So I did, and I did. I kind of thought about it. I think, okay, I need to change some things to get in a better mindset, and I progressed myself through that and came out better for that. Okay, that's what happens when you have two people with a growth mindset. You could be real with each other, and you could take that criticism as constructive feedback to better your life. But when you're in a if I was in a fixed mindset, I'd be like, what, Mercer's criticizing me. No, like I'm not this depressed person, right? Because you create identities over these negative things. No, I'm not a depressed person. I'm not a depressed person. And I would have been in denial and I would have kept acting out in negative ways, right?
Yeah, and I think it's also important to understand when somebody's hating versus when somebody's actually criticizing you, right? If it's something you can change within a short period of time, then it's criticism. If it's something that you cannot change, that's just fucking hating, okay?
Another thing is when you're a growth minded individual, you get to persevere over roadblocks. That is kind of the nature of the business, right? Because you're always going to run into challenges, always going to run into developmental blocks, especially as you get higher up the tier list. These roadblocks might take years to conquer. It might take a lot of intentional work to conquer one roadblock, right? So, in order to keep progressing, you have to have that perseverance. And I think Mercer and I learned that a lot from the gym. The gym takes years to progress, and it kind of becomes a thing where you're getting like diminishing returns from it. But even to this day, we still keep doing it. Okay, so that mentality has helped us in developing in other ways. Because when we go to other realms, we already know we're gonna start from zero. We might have a little bit of talent, but the roadblocks are coming and they're coming fast. Okay, it's just the nature of the business. Once you get into this growth mindset, you will realize that, and you'll kind of take the roadblocks in stride.
Depends on the robot. Sometimes you got to push through something, right? And that's going to be painful as fuck. Sometimes you got to think to myself, how do I get around this? Stop, think, how do I get around it? Realizing when you got to push through something and shatter it, or like when you got to like, okay, I got to strategize around this, right? That's very important to notice. But like we say, like just having awareness changes a lot of these things, guys.
Yeah. And
Mm.
once you get all these things together, then you develop the growth mindset and you can constantly evolve and progress over time.